Hey guys, this is Andrew with Figure Fandom Review, and today we're going to be reviewing the SH Figuarts Kaidou, King of the Beast figure. In terms of scale, I want to say he's probably number 3 in terms of size for Figuarts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it goes Purunga, then Great Ape Vegeta, and then this guy. But man, he's a big figure. Really cool. I was really excited for this one. Going into the review, just giving you a heads up, there's, some good and some bad. Mostly good, though, in my opinion. Some people seem to have some hate for the figure. Some people love the figure too much. I feel like it comes somewhere in the middle, maybe. But lot of information, lots to unpack here. So let's just go ahead and take him off the stand and get right into it. Okay guys, now that we got him off the stand, we're going to take a look at the aesthetics. Before I do, just want to let you know, so this is primarily how he's going to come out of the packaging. The difference is that I added the tail to him right now, as well as I added the mustache, whiskers, whatever the hell you want to call them on, because he looks a little weird without that. He's supposed to have that on. The tail helps him balance, so that's why he has it on right now. For his cloak, I'm not going to put his cloak on him yet. I'm going to show you that cloak separately apart from the figure, just because there's some articulation with it that I'd like to show you, and it's easier to do so with it off the figure before I put it on. So now getting into it, for the mold work on this figure, I think is really well done. It just, there's so much, lines and, things on it to look at that are kind of popping off at you. For instance, one of the things that the area of the figure that my eyes is drawn to the most is his midsection. So if you look at his midsection, beautiful mold work right here on the scar, and the paintwork and the shading in that area, it draws your eyes to his ridiculous abs. But also that scar looks visceral. It looks nasty, like he took a major blow from a powerful enemy. So they did a great job with the midsection and making it stand out and pop, because that is really one of the defining things on Kaido, is that scar he got from Odin. Now moving on to speaking of paintwork and shading. So this figure is weird in that they shade certain parts, and then they just completely leave other parts alone, which is really strange that they would do that. So for instance, there's beautiful shade work, like I said, in the abdominals. There's beautiful shade work on the top of the rope to kind of make that pop. A standard white there would have just looked weird. And then as far as any other paintwork you see, we do get his horns, which are painted beautifully, I might add. So they did a great job on the horns. And the only other paintwork I have is on the bottom of his tail, right here. So the bottom of his tail has some paintwork and what looks to be some shading. Oh, no, it does have shading, sorry. Some shading on it, which is nice. The problem is the top part of his tail has, they could have gone with a dark wash or something for the top part, but it's very plain. And it's the same thing that his arms suffer from as well. So if you look at his arms here, it's just a pure plastic, minus the arm bangle here, the spike bangle. Everything else is just a pure plastic, and it gives the figure that should not have a cheap look, because it's $250. It gives it a very cheap look to the figure. I know his arms are this color, but I would have liked a dark wash in the lines just to make the lines pop more. Outside of that, it's just very plain looking on the scales. The scales are there, but it's almost like, what's the point? They would pop a lot more if they had some sort of black wash in the lines to kind of give them some life. Now on his other chest piece here, his chest and his shoulders, he does have the blue paint on the scales up there. Now I know that color doesn't translate all the way down in the anime, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, but like I said, a wash would have made that look a little bit nicer. So yeah, outside of that though, like I said, it's weird because mold work is great on the figure. He looks really good. It's just they really could have gone with a wash, more shading on the figure. It would have made this figure really, just pop. This figure would be amazing with more shading throughout. So it's really a miss on Tamashi's part there. But let's go ahead and let's jump right into the articulation, because that's a big one. So moving into articulation, guys, we'll start from the top, work our way down, of course. So firstly, we'll go over his hair. So he does get hair articulation. So you can just move it up and down. It doesn't move to the side all too well at all. So you're just gonna really be going up and down with it, but still, we do have that. So that's nice. He does look up a little bit. Now he will get a small gap under his chinny chin chin by his clavicle. I think that's the area. But yeah, he does get a small gap there, and it's not the worst gap though, but it is a gap there, so I figured I'll let you know. Speaking of his chinny chin chin, he does get beard articulation, so yay! It does move around a little bit, not a whole lot of range, but enough to kind of give it more like like a windswept, like his hair is going to that side, or his hair is going to that side. So you do have some options, forward, back, move it up a bit, whatever you want. There's options are there, so that's nice. Now, he can look down a fair amount, and I didn't mean to use any abdominal there, just his neck. His neck does look down. So he gets a downward neck movement. It's not gonna look crazy until you add in his abdominal articulation, but still it does look downward, so that's something. Now, moving to his shoulders, he does go out all the way, to 90, so that's nice. He does have a bicep swivel on his arms, as well as he does have a double jointed elbow. So that is there as well. And the good thing is his arm bangle, the spike bangle, does not run into his bicep or anything. So you can basically push it all the way up, and this isn't going to get in your way. Now for his hands are on the standard Figuarts ball hinge, but just a little bit more durable and a little bigger. So big boy, bigger, parts, all the same. All right, now for abdominals, this is where we kind of get some fun. So for abdominals, he does get a little bit of ab crunch, not a whole lot. It's very minimal in my opinion. It doesn't work very well, but his lower abdominal, or his waist articulation is very good. So he can look down a substantial amount, and he can look back for when Sun God Nika is about to smite him with a lightning bolt. He can look up a fair amount to look into the heavens when he's about to get wrecked. So good job on that. Now for his legs, don't know that you really would care to use too much of the articulation, because a lot of it is him just kind of standing, but his legs don't go out very well side to side, obviously, and it's just due to the nature of the figure. The figure isn't really meant to kind of do those kind of crazy poses. He can, bend his legs a little bit, so you do have that. So for the ankles have really good, ankle rocker. So the ankle rocker works very well. He does get individual toe articulation. So every one of his little Kaido toes can be moved. So pretty cool. So especially if you want him to be like stomping on somebody, you can make it look like he's curling his toes, like like a dragon around them or whatever. So you do get those options, and like I said, for the knees they do bend, and he does get thigh swivel. So thigh swivel is there. But his legs are not going to be a big focal point of articulation, just simply because that's really not what the character's designed for. And I know that sounds crazy to say, considering I'm a reviewer and usually articulation is a big point for me, but I understand what this figure is meant to be. He's not meant to be doing a jumping dragon kick at somebody. He mainly uses his upper body to fight. So I'm not too upset by that. And one thing I will say I do appreciate is that it's very hard, very difficult. You can move his legs, the ankles. You can bend these a little bit, but they're very stiff, and I prefer it that way. That way, it helps the figure to stand up properly without, the being weak at the ankles. So it seems like they really focused on trying to make sure that was very rigid to support his weight. So I'm not really going to complain about that. All right, guys. So for the tail articulation, I figured it's best if I just take it off, makes it a little easier. So you can twist his tail if you need to. The tail does, move a little bit up and down. So you can move parts of it up and down. And it's not a whole lot of range, but it's something. It does move a little bit. You can twist it, but it is going to look a little weird from the top, because obviously this is going to look segmented. So you can do that if you want to. It's just going to look a little weird. But the option to twist it is there if you want to. It just doesn't twist at this joint. This second joint here will not twist. It just goes up and down. So just be aware of that. The poof of his tail, his little, I don't know, his little hair poof, I don't know what to call it. It does move around in a circle, so it's on like a ball hinge, so you could just move it around, you could spin it, you could do whatever you really want with it, and that's fine. So just wanted to show you that separately, just because it's a lot easier to show you without the figure attached to it. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the accessories for the figure. So for the first accessory, we do have Kaido's cloak. So you have to put this together separately. It does come in 4 separate pieces. So you have the top piece that everything connects to, right? So the top piece here, you do have these upper shoulder pads on a ball hinge. So you do get that. You do get the, I guess in this case, his right part of his cloak on a hinge as well. Same with the left and the bottom. They're all on hinges, and then you have this top or middle hinge right here that actually pegs into his back underneath his hair, and that's how you have the figure. So then once you have that, you can go ahead and angle these however you choose and make whatever kind of scene. If you want it to look like he's jumping at somebody in the air or whatever, you could, sorry, let me get that out of the way, you can maneuver it that way. You can pretty much set it up how you want, and make it look like he's jumping it at somebody and attacking them or whatever. So you do get that right there. Not sure how much of a fan I am of this version of it. I would just prefer cloth goods, honestly, in my opinion. I think that would just be a little bit nicer, and this adds a whole lot of weight, and it is cumbersome. Now his tail does do a great job of supporting all that weight, but I just feel it would look nicer if they found a way to give us cloth goods, which they are seeming to do lately with some of their new releases that are coming out are going to be cloth goods. So, hopefully they just start making that a trend from now on. All right, but moving on. All right, so for face plates, we do get his grinning face right here. We also get Kaido's drunken face. We get what appears to be his angry laughing face or smiling face. We also get his shouting face. And lastly, we get SH Figuarts Luffy's knocked unconscious face, for those of you who have it. For Kaido, we get a pair of open palm or grasping hands, right here. We also get a pair of weapon holding hands. And if you notice on his right hand, he holds it more shallow towards the tip of the weapon, and in his left hand he can hold it a little bit deeper, going towards the middle of the weapon. So we do have these hands right here. We also get a pointing finger hand, so we can point at an enemy, or he can point to himself when he's drunk. And lastly, we do get his drinking gourd hand with drinking gourd. Now what you can do is the back of the gourd has a slot that you could just slot the hand into, and it goes a little something like that. And there you have it. Alright guys, and lastly we have his trusted Kanabo. You wouldn't be Kaido, King of the Beast Pirates, without this. So to slot it in, simply just pull up, take that off, and slot that into one of the hands, whichever you choose. As last but not least, we do get a stand. Personally, I don't use this because the figure bounces well enough on his own, but let's say you wanted him like on one leg, kind of leaning forward, slamming down his weapon on top of Luffy. You could put him in that pose and utilize this to do so. So you know what? Better to have one than to not. I would take one always. So we have a stand. Okay, well that is SH Figuarts Kaidou, King of the Beast. Man, I'm a sucker for some big figure, I'm not gonna lie. But as a person who reviews these figures, putting my bias aside, there are pros and cons to this figure, like anything else. However, I do feel the pros outweigh the cons. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention them. So like we said earlier, with this figure, there is a lack of shading that I feel would have really just done a lot for this figure to really just make it explode and come to life more. It's still, mold work is beautiful. The cloak, cape, whatever you want to call it, it really kind of puts the figure over the top. It looks nice, but the shading would have definitely just made this thing completely just like blossom and been like lifelike on your shelf, or you know, wherever you pose at desk. It doesn't matter. Another con, sorry, that I have is the faceplates. I know we're used to them popping off with Figuarts. It happens often with most of their figures, but in this, it's very easy for these faceplates to come out. As well as the mustache whiskers. Oh my god, they're a nightmare. So they're really, it makes changing the faces, which is something you should really want to do with these figures, is you want to play with them and change the faces and put them in new poses or whatever. It does make it kind of obnoxious to do, which, you know, is really sad, because when you have a figure like this, you do want to repose it and maybe change it up from time to time. So it does make that a little bit of a chore. And for the loose joints, it's weird because in certain parts I feel the joints are solid when it comes to like the wrists and the ankles, and then in other parts at the knees, I can understand what people are saying when they say, hey, my figure has loose joints. So again, these are the cons, but the pros for me add up to more. So it is a beautiful figure. I love the size, the scale. I feel they got him right in comparison to the other SH Figuarts characters in the line. I do love the facial expressions he does have on the faceplates, as well as just all the vibrant colors and everything going off with the figure. The figure just, he's imposing. He's exactly what Kaido is supposed to look like. So for me, I'm gonna give this one, I don't usually do halves, it's usually 7 or 8, but to me, this is more like a 7.5 out of 10. It's a good figure, a really good figure, but it does have its cons that I kind of, at this price point, I have to knock Tamashii for. So I'm going to say 7 out of 10. Outside of that, I do like the figure a lot, but I feel at this price point, they should have done a little bit extra to make it really feel premium. Well, that being said, guys, that's it for this review. But you know, if you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you subscribe. I come out with videos weekly, and of course, please leave a comment. I love to interact with everybody. It's, you know, such a joy that everybody so far has been really kind and you know, been positive. And also, you know, I love the questions too. If there's anything I can help you find, or if there's a question you have on a figure, just put it in the comments, man. I read them. I try to get back to you as soon as possible. That being said, guys, please enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe, and as always, keep collecting. Later, guys.